Today's webinar is the improvement meeting, the easiest advisory sell. And before we get started off, just a very quick note on housekeeping. So we're using Zoom today for this webinar, and I'm sure most of you are really quite familiar with it now. It's where we sort of spent the vast majority of the last 2 years conducting our work on, but we'll just look a little bit more closely at the controls, change your view to the speaker view, and that will just give you the full screen, and that's in the top right hand corner. And that's where you'll see Nat or I, whoever's speaking, and obviously the slides. Everyone's on mute, and we ask that you don't unmute yourself. But if you'd like to ask questions, we're definitely keen to answer them. So you can submit them in the chat pane and select send to host. So we'll probably leave time for questions at the end, but do send your questions as we go, and we'll go through them at the end. So as I said before, we're recording this. So if you do have to leave early, don't worry, we'll be sending out the recording in the morning. So my name is Charles Clark. I'm Marketing Director of Boma, and I'm joined today by Nat Eady, General Manager of the Gap. Hi, Nat.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, look, we'll get straight into this because I know we're short on time. There's a huge amount of content to cover. So just before I hand over to Nat, I think it's really worth just talking about who Boma and the Gap is for any of you who might be familiar with it, maybe only one of us. So Boma is a digital marketing tool. We're designed for accountants, and the Gap is an amazing business development system, and again, also designed specifically for accountants. And so how we work together is basically the Gap content in combination with Boma's digital marketing tool delivers you a really unique opportunity to enhance your client relationships, drive growth, and can really maximize and drive efficiency across your practice when it comes to marketing and even a little bit of sales. So we like to think that Boma and the Gap together enables you to work smarter, not harder. So look, I'll hand over to Nat now, who's going to quickly look at your pre-work, and then we'll jump into the main body of the agenda.
Awesome. Can you see my screen, or have I just gone AWOL?
You're actually in Bridges. There we go. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks. Awesome. So welcome everyone. We'll jump into the agenda, and we're going to start by unpacking that pre-work and discussing a couple of those areas that you're finding it easiest to sell in regard to advisory services. And then we're going to look at the value ladder and really, I guess, why it matters. And we're going to dive into what we've defined at the Gap as the simple improvement meeting and how it's going to help you drive sales in your key advisory services. We'll then look at how to position and generate interest in the meeting, and we'll go through some of the Gap and Boma delivery tools and processes that can really help you in that space, and discuss how we can leverage the meeting for greater advisory outcomes. So we'll jump straight in. We asked you what advisory services you offer, and we got, management reporting features quite highly, as does cash flow forecasting at 26%, business planning 23% of people, and coaching 13%. So what's really exciting to see here is that business planning and coaching services are really starting to ramp up in firms, and they are obviously deviating and moving a little bit further away from those compliance plus services. So that's really cool. And no surprises there that the advisory services that you're finding easiest to position to clients are those same services in that same order. But management reporting seems to be the winner on the day, followed by cash flow forecasting. So we asked the why question to see if we could understand a bit more about that. And it was evident from some of the responses, wasn't it, Charles, that a lot of people are providing management reporting, but not necessarily charging for it. So comments like, it's an easy add-on, but I'm not selling it, or nothing's easy, where there's a fee proposed. So that's a really interesting point. And how do we monetize those reports, and what can we do to push our clients further through that advisory pipeline from those compliance plus services? Cash flow forecasting, lots of commentary around clients feeling the squeeze, and just the sign of the times. and other comments around clients not really being aware of the other kinds of work that accounting firms can do for them beyond things like management reporting and cash flow forecasting. And then we had some great comments from, I'm thinking they might be Boma users, Charles, where firms were talking about what we call the trifecta, or the 3 essential advisory tools: business planning, accountability, reporting and coaching, and cash flow forecasting. And people saying that those are easy to position because it's just what every business needs, and it's kind of best practice. So lots of different comments there, and really interesting stuff. So thanks for your pre-work. Right, so just a quick quote from old Arnie. You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket, and he knows where it's at. It's up to us to get our clients on the advisory value ladder, but we don't need to necessarily execute bold or ambitious plans to do that. We can start with some small steps. And once they're on that value ladder, it's easy to move them up with some very nurturing marketing. So we'll dive right into the value ladder. And if you've seen this before, hopefully you get a distinction today. So this is really a sales tool that will help you position and sell your advisory services. The value ladder helps customers across any business to build trust and confidence to buy from someone. So it allows you to take your customers on a journey from introduction right through to becoming a loyal advocate. And it all starts with some effective marketing. So there aren't any specific rules as such with how you can define your value ladder, and you might have a value ladder for each of your core advisory services. But the key thing is that the first step is free, and from there the investment and the return on that investment increases along with the strength of the client relationship. Step 1's that initial offer. It's free, and it's something free but of value. So for example, perhaps you might want to send some insightful articles, out via email from the Boma platform. Or perhaps you want to take them and turn them into some gated content that can be downloaded from your website if your prospects give you their information. Or you could consider offering a highly educational webinar to your clients and prospects that allows you to openly position your advisory services at the end as a bit of an extension for how they can work with you closer. Step 2, we think the improvement meeting is a great lead magnet for your core advisory services. So we've got that at step 2 today. This low-cost meeting allows your clients to dip their toe into advisory without kind of diving straight in. And if you're not particularly comfortable positioning your advisory services that have bigger price tags, then it's a bit easier for you or your senior team members to position this service. And at the end of the meeting, you'll have a couple of strategies that the client can implement for some quick wins, but you'll have scratched the surface on the improvement opportunities that exist for them. So it's a natural position that you can offer, to meet on a more ongoing basis, which leads you to that initial first tier advisory service, which could be coaching. So it might be that you just move them into the second meeting, but they're committing to a coaching program that's on an ongoing basis, might be monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly. That said, you could, if your client was interested, move into something like cash flow forecasting, if that was an area where they needed more help and they had more of an interest. So it's really up to you, but we're moving from that lower cost one-off meeting into something that's more of a defined ongoing advisory service. So that coaching format, that meeting regularly with your client, does open up and introduce them to a formal planning framework, which is a real natural sell, move up the ladder again to a business plan or a forecast. And so we're starting to get them kind of understanding how we can provide value across a number of ways in the advisory space and have a closer, more high-touch relationship with them as we help them to achieve what they want to in their business. And then that final offer, the loyalty or the premium offer, and we see that as, in this case, the 3 essential business financials, the forecast, the annual plan, and the ongoing reporting and accountability coaching. So we see that as best practice in business, and ideally we want to get our clients from that initial marketing right through to that loyalty or premium advisory offer. Cool. So before we go any deeper into the actual improvement meeting, at the GAP, we've defined it as a specific meeting designed to target a specific area for improvement. So whether that be cash flow and profit improvement, financial awareness coaching, or risk management improvement, or something else completely different, we've created content and tools to help our members seamlessly deliver a specific improvement meeting for their clients. So it's a one-off meeting. It allows your clients to try before they buy. And if they decide not to buy after the meeting, perhaps they're busy or they're not quite ready to commit, then you've still delivered value and you've still built further rapport, and you're also not out of pocket for it. So it's commercially low risk both for the advisor and the client. And if nothing more comes from that, then it's been a valuable exercise. For today's session, we're going to look a bit closer specifically at the cash flow and profit improvement meeting, which is one of the improvement meetings we've defined for our clients in our GAP app. So we've positioned this as a 90-minute meeting, 90 minutes or less, where you'll help your client calculate their cash conversion cycle and demonstrate the impact of small improvements across cash and profit, and identify some realistic improvement targets. And then you'll be able to position the value of that ongoing cash flow management coaching. So really specific coaching, which again, we have all the resources and tools for in the GAP app. So by attending this particular meeting, we've got to get clear on the value for our clients if we're going to market it. So our clients will understand the difference between cash flow and profit. They'll discover the key cash flow and profit drivers in their business. We're going to help them identify ways to improve their debtor days, inventory days, and payable days. And they're going to get a better understanding of the impact that small changes can have on their profit, and take away some actions that they can go and do. So in this instance, Charles, we'll be tailoring the marketing efforts to this specific improvement meeting. So can you show us how we can do that in the Boma platform with some of that GAP content?
Sure. So let me just share screen and let me know when you can see my screen now.
See that now, thanks.
Great. So what I'm going to do is actually take you through the Boma platform and show you a variety of cash flow improvement related content that you can use to nurture your audience. And for example, this one is on improving your debtor days. So you can see here that the GAP has provided you with a suggested image. They've got the social post here, and then down below they have the content which can go into an email or even on your website. Now, all of this can be customized. So if you want to put your own perspective, your own tone of voice on it, if you want to sort of include in the examples that are going to be relevant to your clients or leads, you can do it. But the nice thing here is that everything in here is ready to go. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to share a new piece of content. Now, the reason that we want to share and start sharing regular content like this is that it's going to demonstrate your knowledge of a topic, in this case, the improvement of cash flow. So it's a great way to get potential and existing clients on the first step of your value ladder. And the second article is about profit and cash. And just another example that you can see here that you can start to really talk them through the idea of the service and that you might be offering, the difference between profit and cash, and start to enable them to see that you actually have expertise in this area and very likely are going to be offering a service around it if they're interested in it. Now, obviously, we're not limited to just sending out articles. The great thing about the GAP content in Boma is that there's also the ability to send out everything you need to do with webinars. So we've got webinar kits in Boma, and these basically enable you to deliver a webinar that speaks to cash flow and profit improvement. In this case, the 7 ways to grow your business webinar. And in Boma, you'll find all the marketing necessary to carry out ahead of time, including social posts and emails, as well as follow-up emails, and they're all ready for you to send out in Boma. Now, once you have done something like a webinar, or maybe you've sent out some of the previous articles that we've seen, now we really want to think about narrowing the content down, and also narrowing down and starting to target who's going to receive it in Boma. So following the example I've just shown you, you may have sent out a couple of those articles or social posts and then followed up maybe with that webinar. Now you've earned the right to basically talk to them about a cash flow and profit improvement meeting. And the reason you've done that is that you have nurtured them along that process, you've demonstrated your expertise, you've used that webinar to really help them understand it. And hopefully by now, they're in a position where they'll be open to you making an approach like this. So here is the email that we can send out. And what I'm actually going to do is to show you in Boma how you might do that. So we'll click Delivering Campaign. And we'll just choose email this time, although we could do social as well. It's named for your own internal purposes in Boma. And now the first thing we're going to do is think about who we're going to send it to out of your contact list. And as I said before, we're going to start to narrow this down. So you can obviously see here, I've got all my contacts. You can see on the right-hand side, we've got a number of tags, and one of them is cash flow improvement leads. So you will have tagged these people because they have turned up to your webinar. Maybe they have been opening the emails that you've been sending. So you know that these people are interested in this topic. So let's filter using that. So I'm going to put in cash flow. I'm going to select it, and you can see here we've got my 12 leads who we're going to send this out to. So we'll save and close. And now we've got our audience selected. I'm going to select the template. Now in Boma, you can obviously create templates and reuse them, and that would be in previous emails, but I'm going to send a branded template. And a branded template is basically where it has your logo, and it's going to take the article that you've selected, in this case on the cash flow improvement meeting, and it's going to inject it, the full article, into the email template. So you don't need to do any copying and pasting. You don't need to worry about the formatting. It's all done for you. And that includes the image as well. So here we have the image. We've got the full article in here, and then it's just really up to you to personalize it. So I would always suggest adding a salutation and a merge tag. And the merge tag will basically just pull in the first name of every one of those 12 contacts who we've identified, and then address it to them personally. So that's a really nice touch and very easy to do. Now, everything else in here, as I said before, if you want to make it a little bit more your own by sort of tweaking the tone of voice, you can, of course, do that. For our purposes, I'm just going to finish off with an exit and maybe a call to action. In this case, I'm going to drag in a button, and that button is going to say something generic in this case, but I'm going to say, look, contact us. So you could have them go to a web page, and that might be to book a meeting in with you. You could have them go somewhere on your site. You could also have them send you an email, or even make a phone call or send an SMS. So lots of different ways that you might want them to contact you. And this might also be based on what you know about this group of people. For example, if they're tradies, maybe they're on their phone all the time, so you just want them to give you a phone call. Maybe if they're in sort of in small business and you know, in retail or professional services, maybe, you know, an email or just booking that meeting straight off is fine. So obviously you can preview it. So all the content in Boma is mobile responsive. So whether you view it on iPad or mobile or desktop, it's going to look great. And then when you're happy with it, you can save and close. Now, the last step is just to check that the subject line that we've suggested meets with your approval. You can tweak this or change it if you want. We always try to make the subject line and preview description relevant to the piece of content, but again, you can tweak it if you like. The sender name and email address, this is default. This is a default one that you create when you set up your account. But if you did want to change it just for this particular email, you can do that here. And then you might even want to send yourself a test email, or if someone else within your firm is doing the email, they could send you a test email to just make sure that you're happy with it. And then the last stage is just to decide what time you want to go out. You could have it go out in the future, or you could have it send immediately, which is what I'll do now. So that's all it takes. You don't need to do anything else. That email has now queued up for going out. And now you can sit back and obviously hopefully wait for those people to get in contact. Now, since we're in the platform, and I'll just mention the content library, because obviously we'll talk about this a little bit later, you're not limited just to the content that we're talking about tonight. GAP has a huge amount of content within the content library. They've got their own content library here, and that, if you're a GAPper, you can access within Boma. Otherwise, there are lots of other articles that you can come in and search in the library, or you can go down and search by these categories. So lots of different ways that you can, I suppose, use educational marketing in this platform. And we'll touch on that a little bit later on. But Nat, shall I hand back to you and we can press on? Oh, you're on mute. I think you're still on mute. Let me see if I can.
There's always one. There's always one. We can never go a meeting or a webinar without having someone. Sorry about that, team. Cool. Alrighty, so if we just now pause for a second, and we'll cover what we believe is a simple process for that improvement meeting as we've defined it in the GAP app. So it starts with using a system. You don't have to use the GAP system. You can create your own if you want to, but it pays to have a system so that your entire team can leverage that and deliver a consistent experience for all of your clients. And basically, system starts with getting your clients signed up via a proposal, charging something for the improvement meeting, and then scheduling that meeting. And as part of scheduling that meeting, you're also going to want to get them to prepare you're going to get them to answer some pre-work questions. So we provide digital pre-work in our improvement meeting content, and it's a simple email that goes out with a link for your clients to submit their answers to help you prepare for the meeting. So it's basically them doing the heavy lifting before the session. And then you'll meet for about 90 minutes to educate on cash flow and profit principles that are going to help them understand, the things they can do to make improvements. We've got some great resources in the GAP to help you do that, as well as delivery notes to ensure that you provide a lot of value in that session. And then you'll use a tool or something to scenario plan some of those improvement opportunities so that the client can understand that if they reduce their debtor days by X, it's going to have this impact on their cash, for example. And then you're going to clarify one or two strategies for cash flow improvement and profit improvement. And they're going to get some meeting minutes out of that meeting that are clearly defining what they're going to do as next steps to improve their cash flow and profit. And then at the end of the session, it's a very natural position to be able to say, did you enjoy the meeting? What did you think about the process? Would you like to meet more regularly? These are the coaching programs that we offer that we can work with you in a more regular way to really look forward and help you to continue to make incremental improvements. So right now I'm going to go and take you into our GAP app. I'll just go to our full content suite first, just to show you a little bit more about some of the things we've spoken about. So we've got improvement meetings, we've got our GAP webinars here. So GAP webinars, we've got a lot of different webinars in here that speak to all different types of topics that position lots of those advisory services at the end of them. So you'll never run out of webinar content. And if we're looking at this one, getting paid here, everything that we're going to send out of Boma to promote a webinar is a simple click from here. It will take you directly into that piece of content. So it's really easy to use both systems together. But I'm going to show you today the improvement meeting, the cash flow improvement meeting specifically, and the content we have to help you to deliver that. We've got a process which we won't jump into today, but it defines everything. So it's really clear in your mind how you engage the client, how you deliver the meeting, and what your follow-up process is. We've got that document that Charles showed before in Boma around the benefits of the cash flow and profit improvement meeting, that piece that you send when your prospect or your client is really starting to engage on the topic and you think they might be ready to hear a bit more about the service. We have our proposal. I'll just quickly show you the example. Essentially, you can brand this up as you want, but we've carefully crafted objectives for the client, the measures of success and value to them if they undertake the service. So it's really about getting clear on what we're going to help them with. And then we also go right down to what the proposed service is. The client knows exactly what they're signing up for if they sign the digital proposal. And then you can define your price and your payment options. So your client will get an email and they will get a link to view all of that and accept that digitally. We've got a preparation checklist to make sure you've got everything on hand.
Sorry, Nat, I think you're not sharing the portal.
Oh, gosh. What can you see then? That's interesting.
Still using the process.
Oh, that's bizarre. I'm just going to pause and see if I can. I'm definitely having some issues with this. Okay, new share. We'll try that again, shall we? How's that?
No. Yeah, we are now. Yeah.
Okay, what a shame. Okay, that's all right. What I was showing you before was webinars. We've got a whole lot in there. Then I had hit into the improvement meeting piece here. So this is the content. This is how we send via Boma, anything that is integrated into the Boma platform. I went briefly through the proposal, which details everything about the service, and that's how you're going to get your client to accept it digitally. We've got some preparation checklists, and we've got this really important piece, which we call pre-work. I will go into this one. There's an overarching email. You'll select your client about the time details that you've agreed with them in terms of when you're going to meet with them. You can edit any of the overarching email or the pre-work, but essentially they get a link to complete these answers. So you're going to ask some best practice questions, and that will give you an understanding of how far down that advisory journey they are. Do they already have a business plan? What kind of work have they done? What understanding do they have around things like terms of trade and their cash position, etc.? We're going to ask for some specific data, which we're going to end up putting into a simple calculator to show what happens when we pull various levers. We're going to ask some more in-depth questions around what kind of work they've done in the cash flow improvement space before, so that we can understand where we should start. And the same with profit and those profit improvement opportunities. So now I'll go back. And then we have calculator, which I won't jump into today, but it's very simple. You take, 5 pieces of data roughly that they've provided in their pre-work, you input that very quickly, and then you increase and decrease a few things based on the scenarios you think they could achieve, and show them what the impact that would have on their cash and profit, which is really powerful. We've also got some resources that you can download out of our app, which come branded with your logo, which you can provide to your client and actually work through in the meeting to give them a bit of learning around some of these key principles. We've got the Business 101 cycle, which just helps them understand some of those business concepts. Cash conversion cycle, we've got a couple of examples in there so you can retain the one that's relevant to your client. We've got a resource that speaks specifically to the 7 key causes of poor cash flow. So they're going to start to understand at this point all of the opportunities that may exist for them to improve their cash flow. And then we've got 7 ways to grow your business, which is obviously going to help them increase their profits. So great conversation starters. You're not going to be able to cover it all in that one meeting, but if you can give them 1 or 2 things that they can take away from that session and get real clarity on what they can do next to make some improvements, they're going to take this resource and they're going to see that there's actually a whole lot more they could do beyond that as well. Okay, so I'm now going to attempt to go back to my PowerPoint. Is it working, Charles?
Yeah, it's working now.
I don't know what happened the first time, but anyway, cool. Those are those delivery tools we showed you in the Gap app and how they connect to Boma and how it's really easy to use all of that content to position whatever services you want to, really, whether it's the improvement meeting, whether it's your webinars, whether it's something else. If we think about, what we're going to get from the improvement meeting, I think it's really important to unpack that and to understand the value it can give you and your firm, but also for your clients. So that improvement meeting is kind of an extension on some of the other conversations you're already having, and it's going to create a natural dialogue around improvement. And so thereafter, they're going to come to you, even if they don't progress beyond the improvement meeting immediately, they're going to come to you for some of those forward-facing things more regularly, and they're probably going to be a bit more open to some of those services that you offer that are further up the value ladder. It obviously positions you and your team as an expert, and it is a great learning opportunity for your senior team members. If they can get their head around one of these services, it could be a fantastic learning and growth opportunity for them, especially if they're passionate about advisory work. It's also going to introduce that planning and reporting framework, that accountability piece, that learning and education, and then this is what we're going to take from that and the strategies we're going to implement, and this is the time frame with which we expect you to do that, and then you guys can keep pushing each other and keep finding those new improvements, which is the value of ongoing coaching, that accountability piece. And it's also a really great service if you're not as far down your advisory journey and you're feeling less confident about pushing some of those other services that have got much bigger price tags. Yes, so it all kind of leads to the trifecta at the end of the day, and that's where that value ladder ended, the example that we spoke to earlier. Those 3 essential tools that we think at the Gap really are best practice for any business, and that's that annual business plan, the annual forecast, and that ongoing reporting and accountability. And so if we can start that improvement meeting process, we just think it's a really natural step to then progress through these other services, and hopefully to the 3 essential services as an ongoing engagement with your firm. Of course, we've got everything in the Gap to market, sell and deliver all of these services, and it's all integrated with Boma, so it's much easier to get your marketing plan and your various marketing campaigns ready to roll. So I just wanted to end on one simple mindset diagram that we've got in our app. It's called the decisions mindset, and it's really easy to look at advisory as something you need to tackle by the horns with massive change management. And I'm certainly not diminishing the time investment it takes to get good traction with advisory, but you can start quite small. And this mindset is all about the impact of setting small goals. So upon setting a goal, like say delivering 3 improvement meetings in a quarter, which is not super ambitious, there are many moments before that deadline comes where that will cause us to kind of progress or regress. So if you set a goal like that, in those moments, it's kind of how you choose to act. And if you choose to go, yes, I'm going to push this conversation with the client a bit further, I'm going to invite them to improvement meeting and just see what happens. And then you'll find that you'll start to get these mini feedback loops happening, giving yourself, a bit more confidence to keep going and trying some new things like this. And these are green light decisions, and they're kind of choosing to take small positive steps towards, building some really big momentum. And if we think about that on the flip side, if we get our clients into an improvement meeting, we're not expecting them to sign up to anything massive and take any big, bold action either. It's a green light decision for them too. And you'll find together that as you work, beyond that meeting, and they start to realise the impacts of those improvements they're making, that they will start moving up that trajectory as well. So these are some of the resources that we encourage our members. We've got about 60 or 70 of them in the Gap to kind of use as part of their coaching as well. So on that note, Charles, perhaps you could recap some of the simple marketing that you can undertake in Boma to really start to push things like improvement meetings.
Sure thing. So as you said, let's just recap on what we've covered. So the first thing I would recommend is that you start to send out cash flow improvement related material and content to get the topic in front of your clients, and I suppose to raise the visibility of it. Then, as we covered, you can use a webinar, especially the one that we showed you, the 7 ways to improve. Use that webinar to build their understanding and also demonstrate your knowledge and expertise in this area. Once you've done that, you can continue to nurture them with further content. And this nurture stage might be a short period, or it might be a slightly longer period. But the ultimate goal here is to encourage them to engage with you on this topic, to make them feel comfortable with you, to have that conversation, and then they can start to take those steps onto the value ladder that Nat outlined. So I suppose I would also challenge you not only to think about this in terms of this particular service, but also other ones, and in general, how you can use educational marketing to really educate your clients about a whole range of topics. Some will be, where you are just giving value, so things that will benefit them and their business. Other times it will be things that will make them aware of your expertise and promote other services that you offer. The idea here is that you're building up that relationship, you're building up that level of trust, and you're building, I suppose, that expectation that they can turn to you as an expert in a whole range of services. And the nice thing, with Boma and the GAP's premium content library in Boma, you've got all that content there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. As we talked about before, if you want to put your own unique spin on it, your own tone of voice, it's much easier to start with content that is already sort of done for you, rather than have to start it from scratch. So Nat, I think you were just going to sort of add a couple more points at the end now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just think it's key to think about how we reverse engineer our marketing for the services that we want to deliver. And if we know that it's management reporting and cash flow forecasting, or if it's something a bit beyond that, like a cash flow and profit improvement meeting, then we need to think about, how long we're going to market and speak to those topics and position ourselves as experts. And then what kind of compelling call to actions are we going to make to get people onto the value ladder? And so, whether you want to continue to expand your marketing in those services you're already delivering, or whether you want to look at some additional services that you haven't tried before and how you can market them differently, it's important to look at the end game and then work backwards from how we're going to nurture clients and prospects with our marketing. And the beauty of marketing is that, it might take a few layers and some momentum, but over time it's a very leveraged approach to getting the message out, especially if you're going, to deliver webinars and things like that on mass to multiple people. You're going to get a lot of reach and quite a lot of high touch. Yeah.
And it's scalable, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Is the point there, is that there's only so many hours in the day that you have, and so if you can use marketing and Boma and the GAP to give you that scale and that efficiency, you'll be able to both work on your client's business, but also educate them and promote other services that you might want to get in front of them.
Yeah. So gloss over these next steps to get to the questions, but obviously if you haven't done a trial of Boma or the GAP and you're interested, we'd love to have that opportunity to show you how our products work together. And if you're an existing Boma and GAP customer and you don't have the unlock code to get all of that GAP content and to be able to use it directly from the GAP app, then make sure you reach out to your member success person or someone, or myself at the GAP. And on that note, Charles, do you want to wreak traffic on questions?
Yeah.
Q&A?
Yeah. So there's a couple directed for you and then a couple for me. So we'll start with your ones first. So it said, this is around charging. Do you recommend offering a guarantee, i.e. I'm going to charge you £25 for the meeting, but if you don't think you've had £25 worth of value, I'll refund the fee? So
to answer that one vaguely, I know that some people do that and that works for them. I don't personally think it's something you need to do in a particular an improvement meeting setting, because I genuinely think the value you're giving is pretty massive. And at the end of the day, you're investing in them and they're investing in you, and if as long as you're very clear in what the service is and your proposal, and you know what the proposed service is, what you're going to provide to them for that fee, then I don't think you need to do that personally, but you can if you want to. So I'm not sure if that's specific enough, Charles, but yeah, as I said, I know some people do that, and some people do that specifically for some of those higher level advisory services where people are taking a bit more of a punt when they're signing up to something. Yeah, if they're kicking in, you know, £1,500 for something, for a business plan, and they're not quite clear yet if they're going to get £1,500 worth of value, I can understand that more. But in that 90-minute improvement meeting, absolutely, they're going to get £200 worth of value, and that value is going to keep coming when they make those improvements happen in their business.
Fantastic. And then another question sort of around the pricing question was, what would you charge for the CF, I suppose, which is cash flow and PI
Yeah,
meetings?
the
And
cash flow
is
and
there a
profit
section?
improvement.
Yeah, is there a section in the gap around pricing?
It's a tough one. We can't be seen to be supporting price fixing. So we have to be very careful there. We don't typically recommend, you know, what our clients should charge for a meeting like that. But, you know, it's got to be worth your time. It's a high value service. You should be commanding a reasonable hourly rate for it. It's up to you whether you do want to make it a bit more of a loss leader, if you want to charge a bit less to try and get more people in the door, and drop that, you know, halve that, you could. Especially as you're building confidence in the value that you're providing. And I know that that is a strategy that a number of GAP members have used when rolling out all manner of advisory services, starting with a lower price and kind of giving people, you know, a bit of a good deal to begin with as you get more confident. But then once you've done a few of them and you recognize, you know, the value you're giving and you're getting that feedback from your customers that they're loving, you know, the improvements they're making, then you'll feel confident charging a bit more.
Cool. Okay, so the next few are around Boma, and the first one up is a question around, I suppose, duplicate content, and does Google sort of SEO penalize if you're using the same content as others? So the answer is no. We have actually gone and specifically asked this of Google, and we have had it from their search and SEO specialists that there is no penalty. As you said in your question, great idea, especially if it's adjusted and personalized. And obviously that's what we would recommend, that if you do want to invest that tiny little bit more to, you know, give it your own tone of voice, maybe chuck in an example that you know is going to be relevant to your situation or your client situation, change the image. None of this takes a great amount of time. And if you do want to personalize it, you can. This is a question that we often get asked by people who haven't used Boma before. It's never a question that we've ever sort of come up against by people who use Boma and they've seen the value of it. But thanks very much. That's a great question.
And just quickly, Charles, to add to that, you can also start to add your own testimonials around your services. You know, if you're sending something out on the CEPA meeting, you know, and you know you've got some great feedback from someone, then you know no one else is going to have that same feedback. So get that in there as well.
Yeah, and also I suppose to that point, you can use Boma to, you know, you don't just have to send GAP or Boma content. You can create your own emails, you can create your own social posts, or you can even mix a little bit of Boma or GAP content in a newsletter with your own content. So you're able to really customize our content, but you can also create your own content in there. And we've actually just been running a workshop with some accountants in the UK. And they said around, I suppose, the duplicate content, it's very unlikely that in reality, you know, your clients are following other accountants. It's very unlikely to happen. This is from UK accountants about 2 hours ago. There is an element of everyone wanting to be seen to be unique and doing their own content. At the same time, they also said, but look, you know, we sent out a Boma article on an electric car, and then suddenly I saw a few other people doing it, which I actually, this accountant said was actually people he knew were copying him. And then he looked a little bit further and he said, okay, and I saw some other people who I've never met were doing similar articles, so not Boma articles, but similar articles on the electric car. And we talked about it, and he just said, well, actually, it's not that they're all getting it from Boma. but it's a very topical issue, and they realize that a lot of their clients want to talk about it. So the benefit that he saw is that while these other people had to go and write it themselves or pay an article, a copywriter or an agency to do it, he was able to go into Boma, select it, edit it if he wanted it to, and then get it out there in sort of a matter of minutes rather than maybe days or a week or two. And then one from Patrick, who said he's an avid user of Boma. The question is around, can you put these on your website, which I think your website is Joomla. Patrick, I'm going to get in touch with you directly about how you can post that content onto Boma, because I'm sure we can find a way, even if it's just copy and paste. So I'll get in touch with you after this. And then another one, which is the branded template feature new? No, it's not new. I'm not sure if you're a user of Boma or not, but basically, as long as you have your branding set up in Boma, which you'll need to do to send an email. So that's like your logo, your postal address, which you need to do to comply with email regulations, any links to your website or social posts. Once those are set up, those branded templates will always appear when you choose content from the content library, and you'll be able to inject it in those different layouts. If you're choosing to create an email from scratch, then you won't see those branded layouts because it's up to you to create the content. So you will see a branded empty template, and that's basically it's an email template. It still has all your branding and logos on it, but you then can drag and drop the different elements of that email. So like an image, the text, the video, anything that you want to put in there. So I hope that that answers your question. I know we're a little bit over time. Did anyone else have any questions, or if not, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, it's great questions.
Cool.
Cool.
Hey, well, thanks so much for having us, Nat. Thanks so much for having us on this as well. It was a real pleasure to run this tonight, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everyone for joining us. And hopefully you took a couple of things away around what you can do more in the marketing space to support, pushing those advisory services you're looking into, or what you could do in future but differently around an improvement meeting or some other kind of initial step on the value ladder. Yeah, cool. Alrighty.
Brilliant. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Take care. Bye.